Hello and welcome to WTF. What's the facts? And this week I am having a little look at Aeneas. I think that's how it's pronounced. I could have butchered it, but hey. He is the cousin of Hector and Paris, legendary defender of Troy. Something to do with Romulus and Remus, if I'm remembering correctly off the top of my head. But what we are looking at today with him is where he starts, what units he starts with, how he fights, what his unique traits are as a leader, all those lovely bits. And I've even included a slight little bit on a unique building that I discovered. Everything that I look at in this is basically from the early game perspective. I don't jump into the late end game stuff because screw it. By the time it gets to end game, everyone has a different strategy, and different units might be useful for different things by that point in time. So we'll just look at right off the bat how he plays and how you can expect things to go with him. So without further ado, let's have a little look at his intro to the campaign, shall we?
Paris of Troy must pay!
O great-hearted Aeneas, your cousin Hector is King Priam's eldest son and Troy's greatest warrior. He is well aware of the danger coming from the west.
Brother, your foolish passion has doomed us. Fear not, noble cousins. I stand with you.
Recent incursions from the Aeolians devastated Erisbe. You are now at war with King Merops. Look to the northern bank of the Hellespont. The hostile Chersonesos seek control of this strategically vital peninsula. Beside the sacred springs of Scamandros, your cousin Hector rules wisely in the name of King Priam. His brother Paris rules from a well-built city overlooking the Aegean. In the Western Isles, another of Troy's princes, God-touched Troilos, protects the coast from hostile incursions to aid all seafarers. Secure your holdings, then aid your cousins against the coming Achaean storm.
Right, so starting location. First thing, you get a city, obviously, which is Dardanos. It has the unique building that we're going to speak about in a second. And you have a small settlement, Abydos, I think it's pronounced, which is a stone-producing settlement. You also have a abandoned outpost, which is a logging camp, I believe, directly next to you, which once you beat your enemies, who is the Apesos, you can take it relatively quickly and easily. Troy, the big bad city itself, is directly south of you. It's literally the next city on from Dardanos. As you can see it zoomed out on the map. Now, as for this unique building, it's called the Hasawa Hut. It gives a 5% casualty replenishment, speak properly, of own armies in this province, +2 to happiness in this province, +2 to recruit rank of priestesses in that province as well. The only negative it has is -4 influence over that province. But then if you control the whole province, it's generally not going to be a problem. The other thing that's really useful with it is it unlocks Dardanian Rabble and Dardanian Mob. Now, the Mob is a spear and shield unit. They're light. It says they have excellent morale. They're shielded, expendable, and best of all, they're cheap. So there'd be a really good front line just for holding and not really costing you too much very early game. The Rabble is a two-handed spearman unit, which is pretty much identical to the Mob, except the fact they're not shielded. So, they're more of a cheap flanking unit if you wanted to go down that path. So I think the next thing we will take a quick little look at is his unique traits and abilities. Okay, so the first trait is Stygian Voices. This allows Aeneas to speak with the dead due to the fact he's Aphrodite's son, supposedly. This grants him a buff for a set amount of turns, varying on who you commune with. They all cost -5 happiness faction-wide for 2 turns, and -10 favour with all gods. You start with 3 initially that you can speak with, but you do find more as you reach specific requirements. You get various things, take a city, battle in a certain region, those kind of things. It's quite an interesting little thing. It can give you a nice handy little boost when you need it, but obviously probably not the best idea to do it when you people are about to revolt, because of course it's not going to end too well. And yeah, so we'll have a look at the next little one, shall we? So the next trait is Divine Omens. Godborn Aeneas was always considered humble and pious. This trait gifted him with the ability for reading the omens from the gods themselves. After a set amount of turns, you can spend resources to read the omens of the gods. This costs 300 food, 50 bronze, and 20 gold. And from what I can tell, it remains the same no matter how many times you do it. I did it once and it didn't change, so that was quite handy and quite nice. Once you fulfill an omen, you gain influence with a certain god or goddess, or more than one god or goddess if you were lucky and managed to tick off a couple at the same time, which I managed to do on my first attempt, which was rather nice. It's quite interesting. I got given one which was to make peace with who I was at war with by Poseidon, kill 500 people by Hera, I think it was, and then it might have been Athena wanted me to take a certain city, which happened to be the people that I was at war with. So I completely ignored the going for peace option, slaughtered my enemies, took the cities, and I managed to tick off, 2 of the requirements for 2 of the goddesses. So I figured 2 out of 3 was better than 1 out of 3, logically. I do like this. It seems like a quite neat little thing. Also a very handy way of boosting influence with gods, which obviously you can pray to before a battle, and you can get various different buffs and effects. So it can give Aeneas a tiny little edge when he needs it, and I do appreciate that. That's quite a handy little thing. But I think with that, we're going to have a look at Aeneas' starting units. Okay, right, so Aeneas's, I'm been butchering this the whole bloody video. His starting units. He has 2 Anatolian swords. They are medium weight class, they've got good battle speed, good attack, and they're shielded. They seem like quite a good option for a backup front line, because you'll find out why in a minute, or just flanking the enemy and causing a bit of havoc. The second unit that's on the roster that I looked at was the Coastal Club Fighters, which we have 2 of them. Medium weight, but they've got poor morale and they're shielded. So realistically, they're going to be better for flanking the enemy while you hold them down with some better units. A bit like the next unit, which is the Dardanian Spearmen. You get 2 of these as well. They're medium weight, frontline troops, they're shielded, and they can also switch weapons. So these are going to be your bread and butter, probably late game frontline units, I would say. And then after that, you have 1 axe chargers, which are medium armor. No, not medium armor, medium weight class. Poor defense, excellent armor piercing. So again, you're probably going to want to use these for flanking. Charging head on with these guys is just going to end up wiping your entire units out ridiculously quickly. And then you get 1 light skirmisher unit, which, as the name implies, they're lightweight class. They can skirmish, which means they can hide in foliage and stuff if need be, but they have poor defense, but they do have armor piercing. So, like most of the ranged units in the game, you just want to be careful with positioning and that kind of thing. So, with that, we're just going to go and have a look at the fight that happened after this. Right, so this is the first battle that I encountered in Aeneas' campaign. I haven't got a whole lot to say on how he fights. He seems like you need to be very mobile with him, have a strong front line, and then have a heavy focus on flanking your enemy with some relatively strong attack based units, but they seem to be rather squishy, so you've got to be very, very careful and, you know, micromanaging them quite efficiently. He does have some heavier skirmish units which you get relatively early on from what I see, which I think they are going to be the most useful thing to back up the strong front line, because I don't know how effective these flanking troops are going to be late game. Given the fact I've only seen one that seems like it's going to stand up to stronger units later on. So I think he may have trouble late game. He seems like a really strong early option, especially with the mob and the rabble option that you get from your unique building, because you can produce a front line and flanking units incredibly cheap. Doesn't matter if you lose them because they're expendable. So you've got a meat shield, which a lot of the generals in this game don't have. So with that being said, just enjoy the fight, and then we'll go through to the outro after this.
The foe has sighted your hidden units. Victory is close enough to taste.
On my own, as one! Have them! Spears! Prepare to meet your fate! Apollo's blessing!
You will be in Hades first.
Run to Hades, you dog!
So my overall thoughts on Aeneas, I kind of feel like he's going to be very strong early game and maybe struggle a little late game compared to other people like Hector and Paris and Achilles and, you know, so many other generals. He's definitely got some good units in there, but I don't know how effective they're going to be in the late game. So we'll have to see. I may do a let's play over on Twitch of Aeneas, whatever his name is, after I finished my Achilles hard campaign. We'll see how that goes, how long it actually lasts. But again, thank you for hanging out, everyone. It's been wonderful. I'm still fiddling around with the mixture for my content. So if you have any suggestions or any feedback, please feel free to leave a comment or catch me on Twitter or Discord or on my Twitch channel, whatever. I'll leave all the links below. Feel free to subscribe if you've enjoyed it, or leave a like or whatever. But again, thank you so much for hanging out, guys. I will catch you next time.